Hi, my name is Vikram Gupta, and welcome to PreSales Collective's Journey to Presales. We will be listening to fascinating stories of SCs that made their journey into solutions engineering as a career. Our goal is to inspire you, because if they can do it, so can you.
Good afternoon. This is Brian Cotter. I'm the leader of the sales engineering at Seismic, and I'm with Ashwini, who is with Akamai, and we're here to talk about how she got into becoming a sales engineer and kind of the pathway that she took. So welcome, Ashwini.
Thank you so much, Brian, for having me today.
Great. Well, definitely want to kind of dig into, the SE career. And as we kind of talked about a little bit before, it's like so many people just stumble into this career. Kind of tell us about your story and how you got to be an SE at Akamai.
Sure. Like you rightly said, I think I stumbled upon this career as well. I'm basically Akamai, as you know, is into cybersecurity. It's a fairly the products are fairly technical in nature, and I do not really have a technical background. I studied industrial engineering, and I was mostly the theater kid growing up. So, I was into a lot of creative things. I had started my own company, which was again into performing arts and fine arts. I ran that company for about 5 years, and I've also taught theater to kids in school. So it was like mostly creative stuff. And then when I finally graduated from my engineering, which I said was in industrial engineering, I really thought that I would be, hanging out on some oil rig on an offshore drilling platform, or probably, somebody asked me at that time what I wanted to do. I wanted to be working for an automotive company, and most of my internships have been there. I've been with Toyota, kind of. My job was of a welder with a robotic arm. That was a cool thing. But I used to create the doors for one of the Toyota's cars and stuff like that. But eventually, when it was time for me to graduate from college, I got very excited, signed up for, I graduated from India. So I signed up for the Indian Air Force selection, and I kind of got through to be a fighter pilot. And, everyone at my back home were very excited about it. And I think I got the jitters a week before I could join. And I said, okay, maybe fighter pilot is not what I want to do. But, at that point in time, really, I did not understand why was that not the right choice for me. But at least I just knew that that was not the right choice. So obviously, the next natural step I found was I joined Accenture because they were recruiting from my college, and I joined in as a software developer there. And trust me, I didn't grow up with computers. My Facebook account was created by a friend for me. My Gmail account was created by a friend for me. So this was all new to me. Coding was suddenly this whole new world that I was introduced to, and I think I learned um, .NET framework in like flat 15 days, and I was on on board, like managing applications for UK's largest insurance company, right? And half the time I'd see something going wrong, and you could like really think of me as a person sitting at a nuclear facility and seeing red lights go off, and then you're like, okay, what do I do, right? Um, but what I kind of realized with my stint at Accenture was one of the things that I really missed over there was the fact that uh, as an application developer, I was focused on a very small part of the application, and I was not really involved in the big picture. And I'm somebody who likes to look at something at a 60,000 feet overview and then kind of dig deeper to solve a problem, right? But here, on the other hand, I was just given a wrench and I was asked to fix a particular thing, and that kind of didn't work out for me. And another thing is, I really love talking, and I enjoy it so much. I mean, every time I was punished back in school for talking, and my mother would be so upset, and I would tell her, Mama, one day I'm going to make money by talking. You just wait and watch. Because I'm really passionate about this. I love doing this. Right. So, and that was one thing I was missing as a developer, right? Nobody wants to hear a developer talk. And I was like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. And so within a year, I left and I kind of went and joined a startup, which was into digital marketing. and they used to build websites and do social media integrations and things like that. So I joined their. I was their first technical, rather I would say their first salesperson. Otherwise it was the CEO and the CTO who would do the salesperson and the sales engineer's job. So I was the first person that they had hired, and I pretty much did everything over there. I wrote contracts, I did the negotiation, I did the pitch, I did the pre-sales, I even did cold calling. So it's a startup, right? So you pretty much wear different hats and you do multiple things. But what really happened was I was like, okay, I started craving. I like the idea of working for a bigger company. So I said, okay, this is not for me. And then I stumbled upon Akamai through a referral from a family friend. And then when I joined Akamai, I joined in as a business development person. So basically, all inbound. I would attend all the inbound calls and sales web forms, chats, and basically answering questions to people who are potentially looking to buy Akamai. Gather some initial information and set up a meeting for the sales rep and the sales engineer. So that was technically when I first heard the word solution engineer. Like in my previous job with the startup, I used to go do the sales calls, but I used to have my CTO with me, go with me for any technical aspects, right? And I kind of liked what he did, but then he was a CTO, so that was like something too big. But in Akamai, it was the first time that I came across the concept of a solution engineer. So um, from the business development team, I kind of moved into marketing eventually. And I was with marketing for about 4 years, did demand generation, did our events and things like that. And again, I went back to the same feeling that, I am somebody who likes to look at things from have a bird's eye view of everything and then swoop in, go solve a problem, right? And this idea of and I love learning, right? So you learn something new, and then you get better at it when you teach somebody else, right? Or when you explain it to somebody else. And that's another thing that I really enjoyed. And so I went around. I literally was walking down the aisle, and the first manager I found, whose path I crossed, I just said, "Hey, excuse me, do you have a minute for me? You know what? I'm looking for a change, and I'm looking for a job that is, I'm mostly looking for a consulting kind of a job. And before I could go out and look at other places, I was wondering if there is any role within Akamai that matches these things, which is consulting, which means I get to solve problems, which also means that I can explain stuff to people." And then that guy was like, uh, "You're probably looking at a solution engineer's job, and I'm a manager for a solution engineer team. So why don't we have a chat?" And obviously, the biggest challenge for me here was that I did not have the technical background, right? But of course, I knew Akamai's products because I used to write marketing content for our products, and I used to do our events, new product launches, and things like that. But we just had a conversation, and I think what I really felt was like, okay, I I love learning, so I definitely have aptitude for technology, and I could grasp this. And so eventually, once I got hired into a pre-sales position, I started as a part of my training. I had to learn a lot of basics of the technology, but after that, once you got the basics, it became pretty easy, right? You're just bridging on to things. So I think eventually, like I said, I stumbled upon this role, but it basically ticked off all the things that I like to do as a person. And now it's been about, I think it's close to 8 years that I've been a solutions engineer with Akamai.
That's awesome. There's so many things that I can relate to in my own kind of journey, which you kind of brought up, and I really like the way that you articulated like the skills that you knew about yourself and how they applied to a job, and you kind of navigated to it to actually you have a job that you love, and I always kind of joke about it. You get to travel and play with some pretty cool toys and have fun doing it and solve problems. So but just kind of looking fast forward that first 3, 6, 9 months. What was your first kind of impression of the pre-sales role when you went from like, okay, this is cool as far as a job description, but when you got into it, what was the first things that you kind of were thinking about when you started doing that job?
Yeah, I think in the first 3 months, I was still in training, right? And one of the impressions that I had when I looked at my peers was that it was so cool that they knew so much, right? The wealth of information these people knew. You ask them anything, and you just throw a random question at them, and they have an answer. And the other thing that I really liked was also the fact that not it's not necessary that you always have the answer. What is important is to ask the right questions, right? And I think that was the first takeaway for me, and which is what I continue to practice even to this day. Even after doing this role for so many years, I still don't have answers for everything. But then I do ask a ton of questions, which eventually gives me an idea towards what we are essentially what we are essentially looking for here.
It's interesting. So I definitely agree with you on kind of understanding where you need to aim. And one of the things I always tell my sales leaders that I now work with, I'm like, you got to slow down the front side so we can speed up the close side, meaning we need to know where to aim in order to solve their problems. And that all comes through discovery and asking the right questions. It's not a point in time. It's a journey to understand really where that buyer is and how you can articulate. So, with that being said, like, what are a few attributes that you think, a great pre-sales person that makes them successful? Because I always joke, if there's 50 Brian Cotters on a team, we would fail miserably. We all have different skill sets, and I'm just kind of curious what your kind of skill sets or attributes that you feel that either make yourself a great SE or that you try to emulate from other people as well.
I think one of the first things is I like this concept of shapeshifter when it comes to interpersonal skills, right? Which I think, actually somebody pointed this out to me, and now that's because I almost feel like I should get a badge. I'm a shapeshifter. Right? But essentially, what I'm trying to say here is that, as an SE, you speak to so many different type of people, and different people are at different levels, right? Especially with Akamai, when we are talking about security, right? And even if I'm talking to a CTO or a CISO, sometimes you tend to come across somebody who's historically had a career in networking, and they understand layer 3 very well, probably. Or you talk to somebody who's predominantly been on the application side, and they understand the layer 7 very well, but not saying that they don't know the other side, but they have a dominant side. So your customers can be in different shapes and sizes, and sometimes you're talking to somebody who's very technical, sometimes you're talking to somebody who's not so technical, right? And so the ability of an SE to kind of shapeshift and adapt to the person that you're talking to, I feel is like one of the strongest attribute or one of the strengths that I have, and that plays in favor for me. And the second thing is going to be around, one thing that I tell myself, and I tell any new SE on the team that I mentor, is you do not want to be a talking product catalog at the end of the day. If a customer is just looking for features and features and features, you can just give them a product brief. Save yourself some time and save themselves some time, right? What you want to do is to partner with your customer to understand what their vision is. Can you be a co-creator in that vision? Now, your product may not be the only product that the customer is using. You could be a part of a bigger solution, but it is still important to not just solve for the problem, but to understand the overall vision. Then you know how well you can solve that problem, right? Asking the question like, hey, Mr. Customer, where do you want me to focus?
I love the first one, and I'm actually going to change my own term. I used to call that my chameleon rule, where I needed to kind of adjust based upon the seller I was with or the buyer that I was with and stuff like that. But shapeshifter is such a much cooler definition of that. So I'm going to update that in my own arsenal. And I do agree with you. I'm a big believer in storytelling. If you want to see a demo, go down to Home Depot and demo a lawnmower. Like if you want a story that's going to impact your business, let's sit down and talk. And so I think those are two great points. And it's one thing that I've always felt is the SEs sit in the middle of the wheel, the hub of the wheel, and we have spokes out to all the different departments. And in some companies, spokes are bidirectional and working awesome, and sometimes they're splintered and you got to kind of fix them. But we get to learn so much about every part of the business. And it's opened up doors for my peers that are now CEOs or founders or salespeople or marketing people or product people. So I guess, after doing this for 8 years, how has this impacted your career journey, and what opportunities or doors have been opened that now you're exposed to that you might take advantage down the road, or different opportunities that, for different initiatives that have kind of come up? Like what doors have been opened since you've been an SE that you didn't really think about before that?
I think the biggest opportunity that we get or that I found being an SE is the fact that I get to work with so many different departments within Akamai. Like for instance, I work closely with our product managers, service architects, right, product marketing folks, and all of these roles are like there's so much difference between this, right? It's not all just products. There's so much difference there. And sometimes I also end up working with, I end up talking to our legal department, which is not something that you wake up every morning and think that you're going to be talking to your legal department. But then sometimes you do. And, and of course, you are working closely with the sales department, right? So the very fact that you are kind of working with so many different teams kind of gives you insight into all of these roles, right? And how they function, what really goes into that. And I think being an SE is a very sweet spot professionally, because you are at a point where you have visibility into so many different functions within the organization. And as a next step, of course, you know, each of our career, we have the ultimate ownership towards our career, right? And we got to ask the right questions, like, hey, is this what I like doing right now? And what do I see myself enjoy doing a few years down the lane? And or at least I approach it that way. What are the things that I enjoy doing, and then find a role that aligns with it? And the fact that being an SE gives me visibility into so many different roles, it helps me figure out, hey, where do I want to go next? This is a great platform from where you can build different roles. Like you said, SEs who eventually become either sales leaders, or I mean, there's so many different product managers, sales leaders, people managers. They could go places, right? And I think this is a beautiful um, stepping stone, I'd say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I've been, other than 2 years being a salesperson, I've been a pre-sales person my whole career. So I've been doing this for a while. And right before we started recording, I kind of gave you my background of being in political science and kind of not really knowing this existed. Last question before we get to the rapid fire ones, X number of years ago, if I was coming out of high school or college and I ran into you, what are a few things that you might tell me to say, hey, listen, this is a role for you. Start preparing, start doing these two things, because this will help you in your pre-sales journey as you start.
Yeah, I think the very first question is to kind of like, not just like I think today there's a plenty of opportunity that people get to know about different roles. I myself take any opportunity to go out there and talk to people about their C position, either doing this podcast or going out to different organizations and talking to younger kids who are getting out of school. But the most important question to ask is like, hey, what do you really enjoy doing, and then align yourself to that, right? And if it is a pre-sales role that somebody is aspiring to, let's assume they know about it and they're aspiring to do that. The first thing to do is to talk to a few people on who are already doing the job, right? And talk to more than one person, so that you get different perspectives on what is it that their job description is, right? The job description is something, I don't really tend to focus too much on that, but ask the question about, I use this word so many times today, is like, what is it that they enjoy doing as a part of that role, right? And then prepare themselves towards that. And one basic thing is, there is nothing that one cannot really learn, right? If you have the aptitude for it, or if you're interested in it, you can always learn that. I mean, today I'm a sales engineer for Akamai. Tomorrow I could be a sales engineer for SpaceX, for all I care. All that matters is
You're trying to get the fifth spot, aren't you?
yeah. I'm hoping they're hearing. Yeah, I'm Ashwini Naidu on LinkedIn. Just reach out to me there. But that's the whole point, right? Like, it's as a sales engineer, that's another beautiful thing, right? It's just about your ability to learn something, and then talk to others about it. So you, as long as you like learning, I think that's what you need to focus on. And then you want to make your life more fun, then find an organization, or find a product that you really enjoy using, or something that you find really cool. I find cybersecurity super cool, and which is what keeps me going every day, right? So yeah, no, I said that's what I had to say about this.
No, that's great. And, I really appreciate your insight. And the more people that I've talked to, the more I see like so many different journeys and so many different life experiences. And it's one thing I really like about, sales engineering, is that we have such a diverse background of different people from different walks of lives and different experiences. And it always makes it interesting when you get a bunch of us together in a room. You have no idea where the conversation is going to go, but it usually will end up, trying to solve some sort of problem for someone. But now we kind of like wrap things up here. A couple of rapid fire questions for you, just to kind of keep it a little bit fun. Is what is something fun that you love to do that you couldn't do last year in 2020 that you're going to start doing now?
I think I've been a remote sales engineer mostly. So I had a very brief time when I met customers in 2020. I would really love to go back to doing that, doing more in-person meetings. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. The energy that you get from being with people in rooms it's hard to recreate on Zoom. So that's a great answer. So describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh God, I don't have the third word. I like my favorite shapeshifter. Yeah, I guess I would go with that. I'd stick to the shapeshifter.
Okay. So the last question is, and it may be a couple of years off, but where would you like to retire if money wasn't an object?
I think I would like to retire with a kayak by some water body, and I think mostly a lake. By the lake, I would like to be by a lake. Yeah.
That's very cool. I'm a huge fan of kayaking and water. So, well, Ashwini, thank you very much. We really appreciate you taking the time. Love hearing about your journey. And hopefully as we go through these number of videos, we'll inspire and enlighten other future sales engineers, because as we all believe, I think we're seeing an evolution of sales engineering or pre-sales in general, that we're going to see a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity. But, so thank you for kind of being part of this and helping build our community, because as I always believe, I believe that pre-sales should get a seat at the C-suite table, because the work that we do can fundamentally change companies' directions as well as the products that they're building. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And, good luck for the rest of your year at Akamai.
Thanks for having me, Brian. This was fun. Bye-bye.